with your people talking trash as you deal 'em. Got a Boston in my hand, trying to act like I don't feel 'em. Play it cooler than the fan. See what your partner working with. 4 when impossible, you know I got the other 6. They ain't even got a clue. Take a shot, lift the lid off the pot. Baby girl making oxtail stew, no bell jumping. Bad kids always into something. People steady coming. It's a party over here, and niggas got jokes like the table got legs, cause we running this motherfucker. Slam the winning card on the table for the flex, or slap it on your own forehead and yell next.
Guided by the light, even in the day, when the sun is bright. Guided by the light, even through the night, when the moon is high.
Tycoons of the industry, feel the energy. It's finna be a cold day in hell. Forget an enemy, still on my winning streak. Got my beak in the honey. Cause big bro got a bigger bro. Oh, you only reap what your soul. Give a fuck about such and such or so and so. Light speed like we moving slow. Day and night, enjoy the show. First row to the rest of your life. Oh.
Guided by the light, even in the day, when the sun is bright. Guided by the light, even through the night, when the moon is high.
You're watching a toothbrush playbill.
Come on in, come on in, come on in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. We don't never usually have a lot of people when we talking about things like this, so just gonna hand out the information, and the ones who take it, take it. We're gonna get it started in a minute. But today's topic, we bringing out a little history today. I went to history class over the past week. Gathered some information that I can come back up here and deliver. But we've been talking about the biblical people since we started. No one knows where the biblical people come from. Now we have physical documents in black and white that lets us know where the biblical people come from. We know who the Romans are. If we don't, it's the European powers, the Vatican, and anybody else who's pushing their ideology, their information. So again, we know who the Romans are, but who are the biblical people? Again, this is what we're going to be speaking about today. This is what we've been speaking about for the past few weeks. There's a lot of information on these things from my brother page, YAHJEW, on my sister page, Upgrade with Yah, Arc Evolution page. There's a lot of information on all our pages about what we've been speaking on recently. But today, I'm going to be reading from this article about a black king in the 1900s. This is what today's panel is going to be focused around. So, like and share the live, get your people up in here. Those who want the information, take the information. Those who don't, put it down in and go the other way. So also, not only are we going to be reading from the article, we will be using scriptures to connect these real life people to the Bible. But hold on, let me get the article. Okay, that's my fault. That's my fault. I had to get the article right quick. But again, today's topic is going to be about the East African king that was talked about in the Washington Times in the 1900s. Again, we know who the Romans are when it comes to the Bible, the biblical story and everything. We know who the Romans are. If you don't, it's the Vatican, the European powers, and anybody else who's pushing their information. These will be the Romans. But who will be the chosen people of God? Where do they descend from? This is the black and white information about this. So today I'm going to be reading from the article about Menelik. It's the same article that my brothers and sisters been bringing out. Also, going to attach the some scriptures to the article as well. So first, we're gonna start with a brief timeline that I got from my sister Bridget on her video. You can also go back and see this video on her page, Upgrade with Yah on YouTube. But first, we're gonna start with a brief introduction to the article. Now, if we didn't know, Africa was Christianized by the Vatican and the European powers, if we did not know this. In the 1800s, Christianizing Africa was an excuse to invade Africa. So the Vatican and the European crowns united for their one goal, which is Africa. The Vatican wanted spiritual domain, and the European powers wanted land and resources. Again, these are notes that I took from my sister video, Upgrade with Yah. So the Vatican wanted spiritual domain, and the European crowns wanted land and resources. So they united and they one common goal to take over Africa. So they created the idea that Africa was empty, pagan, and needed to be saved. Remember this. They created an idea that Africa was empty, pagan, and needed to be saved. So this will be the birth of the colonization of Africa. The reason for them wanting to go in and taking over Africa. Again, they wanted spiritual domain and land and resources. So this is where we have the Berlin Conference in 1884 through 85. Now let's for those who don't know, let's look up what the Berlin Conference is. The Berlin Conference of 1884 and 85 was a meeting of colonial powers that concluded with the signing of the General Act of Berlin, an agreement regulating European colonization and trade in Africa during the new imperialism period. I'm going to read the last part one more time. The Berlin Conference was an agreement regulating European colonization and trade in Africa during the imperialism period. So again, the Vatican and European crowns came together for their one common goal, to take over Africa. This is why we have the Berlin Conference. This is an agreement regulating European colonization. But with this agreement, they had the European powers, the Vatican, everybody in on this agreement but Africa. So they coming together to plot on Africa. There's already people in Africa, kings in Africa, settlements in Africa. But there's also resources in Africa. There's also biblical legacy in Africa. And reminder, the Vatican wants spiritual domain. The European crowns want land and resources. But there was a big problem to this plot. Again, these are notes that I got from my sister Upgrade with Yah video. There's a big problem with this plot on Africa, and that problem is Ethiopia. Again, there's a big problem with the plot against Africa, and that problem is Ethiopia. Because they had the biblical legacy, the royal lineage, the sovereign church outside of the Vatican. They also had a military refused European rule, a population that knew who they was. So they know they the biblical people. So they have much reason to refuse this European rule, because they are the biblical people and they have the royal lineage, the biblical legacy. And again, this is a big threat, a big problem when it comes to the plot against Africa. This is where we see the timeline. This is where we see the fights, the wars, and everything against the African kings that protected this legacy. And a brief timeline on the kings up until Menelik, because this is what we speaking on today, the Menelik article. So first we have King Tedros II in 1855 through 68. Then we will have Tekle Yorgis, 1868 to 1871. And this king was killed by Johannes in 1872. He reigned from 1872 to 1889. Now, Johannes made deals with the British to go forth and take out Tekle. So we have kings making deals with the European crowns, European powers, to go against their brothers and sisters. So they making friends with the enemies to fight their brothers and sisters. This is the evil that's upon the throne. And we're going to speak on that in a minute. We're going to speak on that in a minute as far as the Bible. So Johannes making deals with the European powers to go against his brothers. He used the European powers to take out Tekla Yorgis. And you can find more information about him on my sister Talia video. And after Johannes, in 89, here's Menelik in 1889. And he died in 1913. So this is the brief timeline leading up to the article. So let's read the article. Because again, this is the Washington Times writing about a king in the 1900s. This is important because we've been told we've been slaves for 400 years. But there's a king in the 1900s. So let's start with the article. So, hold on. All right, now we can begin with the article. So the title of this article, when this king dies, look out, and he is sick. That's a broad title right there. When this king dies, when this king unalives, look out, and he is sick. So something gonna be coming after this king goes into the ground. Introduction of the article. Menelik of Abyssinia, the most democratic of all monarchs, is seriously ill, say dispatches from the capital of his empire, Turum. And if he should die, an outbreak menacing the safety of European representatives would likely be followed by a fierce scramble from the powers for his rich domain. So, following the unalivement of this king, there will be a scramble among the European powers for his rich domain. We really got to understand, because if the European powers are working together, why is there going to be a scramble among the European powers for this king in particular rich domain? Because again, like I told you earlier, the Ethiopians have biblical legacy, and they also have a lot of resources that the European crowns want. So let's start with the first section. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm gonna read like 5 sections. But let's start at the beginning. From out of the east come the tidings that lion conqueror of the tribe of Judah, Menelik, chosen of God, king of the kings of Ethiopia, as he styles himself. So first, we get the title that King Menelik comes in, which is the lion conqueror of the tribe of Judah, chosen of God, king of the kings of Ethiopia. Now, we really don't have to go too much further to help get people to understand that the biblical people are East Africans, because who else comes in the title of lion conqueror of the tribe of Judah, chosen of God, king of kings? Who else comes in that title? Christ. So if we look out on the earth, what other king came with this title physically other than the Ethiopians? other than the Ethiopian kings. But we're going to keep going. That should be enough to help people understand that the biblical people are East Africans, based off the title that this king is coming in. But let's continue. This king lies seriously ill, like vultures peering from the treetops. The nations of Europe are regarding this sick line. Now, regarding means respectfully and concerning. So they respect this king and they are concerning his sickness. Because again, the title reads, once he passes, it's going to be a scramble for his rich domain. So like vultures, the European are respecting and concerning this sick king. So this also lets us know that they respect the title that he comes in. But that is not all. Should Menelik pass, which is not at all unlikely, according to dispatches from Addis Ababa, the capital of Abyssinia, to Rome, grave disturbances are promised in the struggle for succession. So again, should this king pass, it's going to be grave disturbances in the struggle for succession. Now, struggle for succession meaning struggle to find somebody to take Menelik's place, struggle to find an heir. So in Ethiopia's struggle to find an heir to sit on this throne, there will be great disturbances with the European crowns because they're going to be fighting over his rich domain, who's going to be taken over once he passes. Meanwhile, anxiety is being felt for the safety of the European representatives in Addis Ababa, in case an outbreak should immediately follow the chosen one's death. Again, this is the Washington Times article. Immediately following the chosen one's death. So again, they respect the title that he comes in. Lion conqueror of the tribe of Judah, chosen of God, king of the kings of Ethiopia. So again, they respect the title that he comes in. Reports on a probable succession differ. Deputy Martini, governor of Eritrea, now in Rome, and who recently visited the Abyssinian capital, says that the heir is a boy, 10 years old, called Jitsu. Don't quote me on the names. Please don't quote me on the names. But says that their heir is a boy, 10 years old, called Jitsu, a son of Menelik's daughter, Princess Uzero Zeodita, the Almanash Degata. However, in giving particulars about the princess, so in giving information about this princess, who was first married to Ras Selassie, who passed in 1888, and in 1901 chose Ras Gorgas, governor of Big Himber, for a husband. And in none of this information that they received about the princess speaks on a child. So this is just going through the heirs of Menelik. Ras Makonnen, the most notable subject of King Menelik, his cousin, Haswell confidential representative, was at one time deemed the king's probable successor, but he passed last March. So King Menelik's cousin was deemed to be the heir. Also, the son of King Menelik's daughter was deemed to be the heir. This is the next section. The situation arising from Menelik's illness has made more difficult the acceptance and enforcement of the Anglo-Italian Convention, concluded with Abyssinia in London last summer, the ratification of which Menelik continually postponed. Now, the ratification means signature, making it official. So Menelik postponed making the treaty official with the Italians. The main clauses of this treaty guarantee the integrity of the Abyssinian Empire, the open door and commercial equality for all countries, and provide for the continuation of the construction by the French. Now, my brother brought out, I want to say last week or a couple of weeks ago, that the Italians are the ones who commercialized cotton, which they got from Ethiopia. So I'm going to read this again. The main clauses of this treaty guarantee the integrity of the Abyssinian Empire, the open door and commercial equality for all countries, and provide for the continuation of the construction by the French of the railway connecting Addis Ababa with the coast, Great Britain, and Italy naming representatives in the railway directory. Last January, the German government sent to the Reichstag a commercial treaty giving Germany the most favored nation treatment for 10 years and granted the subject of the two states full freedom of travel and trade in their state. The Abyssinian courts will have no jurisdiction over the German subjects. The interest of the United States in this situation is keen, probably greater than those of all the other powers combined. And this is due entirely to the efforts of individual traders, for the government has no representative. I'll read that one more time. And this is due entirely to the efforts of individual traders, for the government has no representative. What does that sound like? America, the land of the free. The government has no representative, either diplomatic or commercial, in this empire of 10 million people. For a long time, the Abyssinians have been buying direct from the United States cotton and staple products. Robert P. Skinner, the United States Consul General, where we at? Robert P. Skinner, the United States Consul General, and Marsalis, I think I'm saying that right, Marsalis, went to Abyssinia on a special mission late in 1903, and returned early in 1904 after concluding a commercial treaty between the United States and Germany. So earlier in the article, it says the German government sent to the Reichstag a commercial treaty giving Germany the most favored nation treatment for 10 years and granted the subjects of the two states full freedom of travel and trade in their state. I was supposed to ask about this, but it sounds like the Germans have made a treaty with the Abyssinians and they have been given freedom of travel and trade in either state. So now we have the Germans making a treaty with the U.S. So this looks like the U.S. way into Abyssinia through the Germans. Again, I'm gonna ask my brother to make sure I'm right on that. He's not here right now though. But where was I? After concluding a commercial treaty between the United States and Germany, when Mr. Skinner went to Addis Ababa, in addition to an elaborate invitation to the World's Fair engraved on silver, he presented to Menelik a letter from President Roosevelt in the latter's own handwriting. So this next section is about Menelik's personality. It is hard to associate King Menelik with sickness. This swarthy monarch, who, in driving the invading Italians from his country, became, we got to listen, in driving the invading Italians from his country, became the only black ruler who ever gained a decisive and lasting victory over a white nation. Now, earlier, I'll let y'all know from the notes that I got from my sister's video, Ethiopia is a threat to the idea that the Vatican and the European crowns have in taking over Africa. Ethiopia was a threat. So again, Menelik became the only black ruler who ever gained a decisive and lasting victory over a white nation. Is distinctly African in his physiology. Dang, how do you say this word? Physiognomy, yeah. Is distinctively African in his physiognomy, meaning his physique, his features is distinctly African. It's nothing, it's distinctly African. He is very tall and broad, and until his illness was noted for his strength, he is about 64 years old and fond of wearing an American broad-brimmed hat, dressed in loose garments, and when in the house always has a large kerchief wrapped around his head. The king's state garb is made of black leopard skin and skin of a black maned lion. Now, his wardrobe sounds like a regular African American to me, and we're gonna show what he actually looked like. We're gonna show what he actually looked like. If I can. Dang, how do I change the... Dang, how do I change my background? How do I change my background? Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. I gotta, hold on. Hey, Josh. My apologies, my apologies. I was trying to make sure I can show what Menelik looked like right quick. Figure out how to change my background. Okay, so I'm gonna read it one more time. Is fond of wearing an American broad-brimmed hat. Let's start with that. Dang, you can't see it, man. Okay, you can see that one better. So this is a picture of Menelik. Is fond of wearing an American broad-brimmed hat, dresses in loose garments, and when in the house, always wears a large kerchief wrapped around his head. That sounds like a bandana to me. That sounds like a bandana to me. Go to the next picture. And I don't know how, but this dude looks just like an African American. He looks just like an African American. We can usually tell the difference from an African and an African American. But this African man looks just like an African American. Why? Because the African Americans are from East Africa. But let's get back to the article. Let's get back to the article. Where we was at. Okay. Menelik is the most democratic of kings. Menelik is the most democratic of kings, being the son of a beggar maid, whom his father raised to the throne. The king does not hold himself aloof from his people. He often works side by side with the common people at manual labor, teaching them the use of modern implements and machinery. He is popular with his subjects, and it is said that chiefs in the most remote part of his domain are eager to carry out his commands. He is much interested in modern machinery, modern mechanical devices, has a telegraph and telephone service, and spends hours listening to a phonograph. He mints his own money and commands a splendidly disciplined army of 180,000 men, equipped with the best guns and other fighting devices. So this sounds like a meek king. This sounds like the characteristics that someone who's sitting on the throne connected to God would have. He is popular with his subjects, and it is said that the chiefs in the most remote part of his domain are eager to carry out his commands. He often works side by side with the common people and at manual labor. Again, this sounds like somebody who would be great at representing the throne of God, because he don't put himself over the common people. He works alongside them. But the next section, Menelik always keeps his word. Menelik is respected by foreign countries because he never fails to keep his word. He is well informed and has marked executive ability. He knows how to handle people and is an able diplomat. Europeans regard as a great joke his Solomon assertion that he is directly descended from the great great King Solomon. Judea's wisest ruler. Menelik is a stanch admirer of President Roosevelt. He had hardly heard of the strenuous president of the United States until he introduced into his palace a young American girl of musical talent who was his official piano player. The young woman was a Roosevelt enthusiast and told the king, where we at? Okay, a Roosevelt enthusiast, and told the king something about the president's vigorous personality. The dusky emperor was deeply interested. He called for more, and his American piano player sent for a biography of Roosevelt. Menelik was much absorbed over the physical activities of the president as told in the book, and caused translations of the work to be published and circulated among his subjects. Especially pleasing to the chosen one. Again, this is another time where the Washington Times recognized the king as the chosen one. Was Roosevelt's personal participation in the Battle of San Juan Will. This appealed to the Abyssinian ruler, for in a fierce battle at Ados a few years ago, where the Abyssinians utterly routed a large army of Italians, killing 10,000 men, King Menelik himself rushed into the conflict near its close, brandishing a big sword and killing and unaliving a number of the enemy with his own blade. In fact, while other rulers of the realm in the dark while other rulers of realms in the dark continent have been subdued by the European powers, their domain annexed, and colonizers, their domain annexed and colonies or dependencies, the supremacy of the Caucasian blood and civilization have not availed in the case of Menelik and his Abyssinia. So, while other rulers in the dark continent, while other rulers of Africa have been subdued by the European powers, Menelik and his Abyssinia wasn't going. So again, Ethiopia was a threat when it came to the Vatican and the European crown's plot on Africa. Ethiopia was a big threat. Why? Again, because Ethiopia have biblical legacy and they know who they are. These are people who know who they are. Now, to tie in some scriptures with the article. Because nowhere else we see kingship like this. Great kingship like this. But even though that these were kings, they did evil on the throne. This is why we see the kings making deals with the European crowns to go against their brothers. Also at the same time, fighting the Italians, fighting some of the European crowns. Again, this is evil when it comes to the eyes of God, because the greatest love is to lay your life down for your brother, not against your brother. I'm going to read that verse right quick. This is John 15 and 13. Greater love hath no man than this. So there's no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. So there's no greater love than a man laying down his life for his friends. But these kings was making deals with the European powers to go against their friends, aka their brothers. So this is the evil that happened upon the throne. And we're gonna bring First Kings. Following that, we're gonna bring First Kings 11 and 6 out. So this is First Kings 11 and 6. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David, his father. So just like David, Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord as well. Now, David's evil was the warring on his brothers and sisters. Again, these are kings that was warring on their brothers and sisters, fighting each other because nobody wanted to follow the order of God. Now, this is why David couldn't build a house. This is why David couldn't build a house. And we're going to go to 1 Kings 5 and 3. First Kings 5 and 3. Thou knowest how that David my father could not build an house unto the name of the Lord his God for the wars which were about him on every side, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. So again, David couldn't build a house in the sight of the Lord, in the name of the Lord, because of the wars that was about him. Now, again, we see the reference with the kings in Africa warring because they don't want to follow the order of God. Now, earlier I brought out a timeline of the kings who sat on the throne and defended the throne. First, I brought out King Tedros, 1856 through 68. Tekle Yorgis, 1868 through 71. Johannes, 1872 through 1889. And then Menelik, the king that we are speaking on today, 1889 and passed in 1913. This is also a reference to 1 Kings 8 and 25. First Kings 8 and 25. Therefore now, Lord God of Israel, keep with thy servant David, my father, that thou promised him, saying, there shall not fail thee a man in my sight to sit on the throne of Israel, so that thy children take heed to their way, that they walk before me as thou walk before me. Excuse me. So, these will be the seeds of David, walking before God as David walked before God. But David couldn't build a house. David couldn't build the house of God, which would be the government. This is why it's prophesied for a chosen son of man to come in the end times to build this government. This is why we see in Isaiah 9 and 6 that a son will be born, a child will be given, and the government will be placed upon his shoulders. This don't take away from the kings who sat on the throne before him. They just wasn't able to build the government because they did evil in the sight of God. Number one, warn with their brothers and sisters. So now today, we letting everybody know that the chosen one of God, the chosen son of David, seed of David, is walking the earth right now, bringing forth this government, this house of God that David couldn't bring forth himself. I want to say that was it for the scriptures time. Yeah, I want to say that was it for the scriptures time, the kings. Time the kings that we speaking on to the scriptures that we reading. Because again, everybody knows who the Romans are when it comes to the scriptures. And this is the Vatican and the European crowns. Like it or not, it's the Vatican and the European crowns. Also, anybody who is pushing their information, because these are the people who went forth and colonized the nations with their ideology. Again, the Vatican wanted spiritual domain. Who had the spiritual domain? The Ethiopians, the kings of Ethiopia. This is why the throne of David is in Ethiopia. This is why the siege of Magdala happened in 1868. Because Ethiopia had the spiritual domain that the Vatican wanted. They also had resources that the European crowns wanted. So there was a little history about what's going on and why we doing what we doing today. The kingdom of God, the throne of David has been attacked, fallen, given away, the authority given away to the enemy, however you want to put it. And now it's time to be restored by the chosen one of God. And we never have too many people who want to speak about this conversation. So this panel might be short today. But now that we got this information that the family has been putting out, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to stand up and conduct a revolution? Or join the revolution, because the revolution is already going on? Or are we just going to continue to sit and watch? But I didn't have too much else for today. Again, a lot of people don't like to come up when we have this conversation. This is history class, and I ain't really like history class, but this is history that needs to be known. But yeah, since this is history class, a lot of people don't like to show up to history class. But for the people who want more information about this, you can see more on my brothers and sisters panels, my brothers and sisters pages. My sister Arc Evolution got some stuff on her page. My sister Bridget have things on her page, her YouTube. Talia have things on her page, her YouTube. YAHJEW have plenty of things on his page. So if you want to see more information about the history and the revolution, you can look at the Saints, YAHJEW. You can look at YAHJEW and the Saints pages. But yeah, that's all I have for the people today. I just wanted to read that article. But with that being said, again, it's a revolution going on. And if you would like to be a part of that or support it, YAHJEW is the place to be. Again, I ain't have too much for the people today. I just wanted to bring out this article about a black king in the 1900s. If there was a black king in the 1900s, we have been lied to about the oppression and how long it's been. It hasn't been 400 years. It's only been a couple hundred years. But with this change of dates, like my brother was saying last night, this puts a weakness on us. We don't think we can ever get out of this based off of how long it's been. But it ain't been that long. And now that we bringing that out, it's time for us to wake up and do something before it gets too long. It's going to happen regardless, but it's time for us to wake up and do something about this. But with that being said, again, I ain't have too much, and a lot of people don't come up when we in history class. So peace to the real, and peace to the ones who don't steal. This video gonna be posted on YouTube. And again, if you want more about the things that we speaking on, you can check out the rest of the Saints pages.